Thanks for tuning in. If you had not known, the UNT Conn-Selmer / King Trombones Jazz Trombone Competition closed yesterday. That is September the 8th. So September the 8th, 2021. We have some great prizes for our finalists. I can't wait to have our 3 finalists on campus. Some people have been emailing me about when they might get results or when they might get some comments back. Not everyone's going to be able to get comments back, but we're going to give as many comments back as we can. We have entries from all over the world, and it's going to be a little tricky to get everyone back really, really quickly, because the most important thing for us right now is that we have to get the finalists identified and then get travel booked so they can come to campus in November. So if you hadn't heard yet, watching this, you're going to hear first. We're having the fantastic Ido Meshulam from LA, from Israel, but also living in LA, and he did the Monk Institute. He's played with Herbie, he plays with John Beasley, the Monkestra. He's played with Gordon Goodwin. You can find him all over YouTube. He was in the Monk Institute, I think I said that, which is now the Herbie Hancock Institute. And so we're super excited to be having Ido come to UNT to be the guest artist for this year's festival. We're going to have a full announcement video there, but if you're watching this, you get to be the first to know. And we're going to be doing some brand new arrangements. He suggested an arrangement so that Ido and I are going to play together with the YouTubes, which is going to be a lot of fun. We've got a King trombone as the prize for our first place winner. We have a Butler custom trombone slide for our second place winner, and our third place finalist will also be getting something, but we can't disclose that right now. And the winner, of course, will get a scholarship to UNT, a $1,000 scholarship to UNT for the program of their choice when they apply to come. Started listening to some of the entries today, and they were super great. So this is going to be kind of a rapid fire edition of the show, and we're going to just get rolling. I've got 9 questions. I'm going to power through these questions. Alex asks, my thoughts on transcribing the mistakes when transcribing a solo. Yeah, I mean, if there's obvious mistake, maybe you fix it, quote unquote. If it's like a note mistake or a cracked note, I'll just figure out what note they meant to play and try to play it that way. Sometimes the magic is in the mistake, so understanding how and why it works is important. So I wouldn't automatically just say, like, oh, I got to fix it, or don't fix it, or play the mistake, or don't play the mistake. I think it's on a case-by-case basis. Anyone that's studied with me knows that my whole kind of shtick when we do a transcription is that we're going to be as faithful as we can to the recording. So meaning we're going to be as close as we can to the recording, getting all the articulations, the inflections, all of those things. So we take all the time that we have and can to make sure that we get as close as we can. So that it goes for all the aspects. So to me, it's like, yeah, maybe you would include the mistakes, but also trying to understand the kind of the why. I'm always interested in the why. Why did it work? Why didn't it work? How can we make it better? How can we get something out of it? They said, just got a lead chair at my university. Any advice? All right, so if you're playing lead in a big band, the important thing, the best advice I can give you is find great lead players and listen to them. Sometimes we don't have a concept, right? So the most important thing to get when playing any new type of music or getting thrust into any new musical situation is to know the concept that you're trying to achieve. So that concept might be maybe Irby Green. It might be Wycliffe Gordon. It might be somebody like the guy that used to play in the band, or the gal that used to play in the band before you did at your university, in terms of a concept for lead playing, So there's different concepts, like, if you listen to Ellington's band or the Jazz at Lincoln Center band versus someone like Kenton's band, you'll notice one has a lot of personalization, and Kenton has almost no personalization. They use a lot more slide vibrato. Ellington's band uses more lip vibrato. There's all these different kind of things. So you got to be knowledgeable and get a concept together, because we usually get a concept together about like soloing. Like, what do I want to sound like when I solo? Who do I want to sound like? What am I going to transcribe and all that? Same thing happens with lead playing. Dick Nash, another LA cat, Bill Watchers played a certain way. John Fetchak plays a certain way. So you just have to kind of do your research, come up with a concept, and then do the same thing every time. So your job as a lead player is to define what the phrasing is going to be, but then stick to it. One of the most annoying things you can do as a lead player is keep changing how you play something. You want to make it replicatable. You want your section to know what you're going to do so that they can follow you. A couple from Brian first. He says, what tunes have you learned in all 12 keys? One that I like to play in 12 keys because my friend Lucas likes to play it in 12 keys is Cherokee. This last couple of weeks we were working on All the Things You Are in 12 keys with the studio. We always do blues and rhythm changes in 12 keys. Donna Lee I've taken in 12 keys. Tunes that have cycles, giant steps, those type of things. are good to take into 12 keys. I'm not a person that takes every tune into 12 keys, but I try to take a few tunes into 12 keys. Bird Blues is one that I've done in 12 keys. Confirmation, the real staples, the ones that you might need to know those sequences. But all the things you are, this is really hard, man. It's like it trips me up every time because it's just like it's hard to hear, It's hard to hear going through all those different key centers really fast. So I recommend that one. What do you think are the Mount Rushmore of jazz albums? The 4 most important and influential? I don't think I can answer that question because I can only answer what was impactful for me and what's impactful at the time when you're investigating. It's so personal, and it's so personal to your experience when and where and how and who showed you the records, what's going to be like your most important and influential. And in terms of like for all of jazz, that's an impossible question. I don't think there's only 4 or 5 or 10, There's a whole host of artists that made bodies of work that I think are important. The obvious ones like Miles Davis and Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Louis Armstrong and all the rest. There's so many. Ella Fitzgerald. You can't do it. Have you played a composition of yours that sounded bad in the beginning but worked? Yeah, there's plenty of them that sounded bad in the beginning, especially big band arrangements. The more you kind of finesse them. Oh, and also like if you ever go digging on YouTube, there's a project I did for a 10-piece band, a dectet called the 10-Year Suite, and I really enjoyed that. I did it at UNT a couple years ago also, but the first movement of that I had to rework like 5 times. Yeah, but it works. In a way, if you just kind of absorb it kind of in the middle of it gets all kind of crazy. But when you're about to make a record, how selective are you with picking the right pieces? I kind of compose the record along with the selection process. So I don't like write a whole bunch of tunes and then select. I kind of like write the tunes to make the record and then keep writing until I have the record. So there's not really any like selection process in that way. I don't believe in doing it that way. I was watching an interview though with Ron Carter, and he was talking about recording with Miles, and when they would record with Miles, that they would just record whatever's in the repertoire at that time, and they would bring new music to the session. And I thought that was pretty interesting, that they just played whatever they were working on. And so sometimes it would be 2 days worth or 2 tunes worth or whatever, stuff that was new that was unrecorded. And I thought that was pretty interesting. He has a bunch of interviews on his YouTube channel that he started doing with people. That was one. And then he did an interview with that guy, that guitar guy, Rick Beato. Taylor asked, do you have a favorite childhood memory, either in music or life? I mean, I have obviously childhood memories, but if I'm trying to think of favorite childhood memories about music, I'm just going to say the one that kind of transformed my whole life, man, was, I guess it was a collection of experiences going through the process of preparing for being a classical musician and then finding the music of Duke Ellington. And then that was through a band that played on Saturday mornings at Eastman in Rochester. And then we went to New York. And we got to play in Alice Tully Hall. And I got to wander around New York. It was my first time in New York. I had been there with my parents before, but first time like as a jazz trombonist, because that was 10th grade for me. The magic of playing jazz in that city, it just kind of like woke me up, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I wanted to be a classical musician. I wanted to play classical music. I wanted to get into the orchestra and do that because I thought that that's what I was good at. But it opened my eyes to a whole new world, and that was kind of that's a favorite memory of just doing that. But it's really a process, And then it kind of came full circle, getting to play then with the Lincoln Center Band many years later, 10 or more years later, on tour, sitting on soundcheck and be like, oh crap, Winton is right behind me. What am I supposed to do now? Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. As usual, you can go ahead and put some questions in the comments. I'll try to grab a screenshot of them and bring them to the next episode. We're going to go back to Tuesdays. November 20th is our Jazz Trombone Day. UNT admissions are now open, so if you're thinking about coming to UNT to do a bachelor's degree, master's degree, DMA, the application process is now open. We have virtual and in-person auditions this year, so whatever suits you best. We do have a pre-screening tape. There's a whole video on YouTube about all of that. But I will reiterate, we do actually have a TA spot opening up. Our TA Jack Courtwright, who won the J.J. Johnson competition this last year, is finishing his master's, and he'll be moving on. So we're going to be looking for a TF for the studio who will teach secondary jazz trombone lessons. Helps me out with the Jazz Performance Fundamentals class, which is our first year class for freshmen jazz trombone majors, and other people that are interested in kind of honing in on the basics of jazz trombone, and then the YouTubes, and directs the YouTubes, and then some TAs and TFs get looped into and expand their load and get paid more and all these kind of things to go and do work for the department in terms of maybe conducting a lab band. Jack is conducting a lab band. A couple of our students, jazz trombone students, are doing lab bands and arranging class and a whole bunch of different things. So if you are a person, especially in the master's or DMA realm, we're looking for you this year. And of course, always looking to take some great undergrads as well. So applications are now open and they're due in December. But the pre-screen, get it in, send it in, ask me questions, send them in, nicholas.finzer@unt.edu. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So please get in touch if you have any questions. So have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we'll be back live for the next episode. But in the meantime, hope you enjoyed this one. Take care.